What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Team Member Perspective podcast show. My name is Coulter, your host, former team member of 6 years, and I like to think that I did okay as a team member. You know, doing 200 life a year, 100 plus in health. What's crazy is there's like a lot of team members that are actually doing that, which is amazing. You know, I think any team member that has gotten to that level in production, it's because they have a very systematic way of doing something. Like they've got a process that they follow with every added car call that they take, or if they're a service person, or they've got a systematic way of remembering to set annual life reviews and then hold those reviews and write policies, write big premium. Or they're really good with multi-lining life and health with new business because they have a systematic way of doing it, right? Like, I believe it all comes down to their systems. At least that was the case for me. Like if I think of, writing 200 life a year and, doing 100 plus health a year, it's definitely not impossible. I believe that every team member can do that with the right intention, attention, and focus, but with the right systems, right? Like we've got to find a way to systematically do it because if you're writing 300 financial services a year on top of writing home, auto, servicing the book, or whatever else is required of you in your role, to do that, I mean, that's pretty heavy production, right? Like if you get down to a daily basis, like 300 divided by, we've got 360, let's get down to this here. 52 weeks in a year, we're going to give you some time off. So 48 weeks in a year, you got a month time off, but also like if you had a sick day or whatever, if you did 48 weeks times 5, that's going to be 240 days. 300 divided by 240, you're writing like 1 to 2 financial services every single day. Like that's what it comes down to. And for me, like when you break it down to that small of a chunk of like what you need to do on a daily basis, for me, 300 a year now seems attainable. It now seems doable. But even then, anybody that's been in this business long enough knows that like to do 1 to 2 financial services a day, it's harder than it sounds, right? But it's definitely possible with the right systems in place. But anyways, I'm excited to be back. I took some time away from doing podcasts. I had other stuff going on. We moved into our new home, hence the new office, slowly coming along, but got a lot of work to do. But also been really just helping our group with founders. We're in the middle of founders right now. By the time you're listening to this, it's going to be over and we're going to be in August prepping for fall life. Yet another promotion, but I'm excited to be back. And I'm excited for this episode, which is part 7 of our 7-part series, our sales culture series, right? Like how do we build a culture that's like, it's designed around sales. It's designed around bringing more revenue to the agency. Like how do we have that type of a culture? And, my position and my viewpoint, my perspective from, building a sales culture in your agency is unique in that, I was a team member for 6 years. And I, my first couple years, I was average. Didn't do anything special. But it wasn't until I started to learn how to sell financial services that changed and I became a high-performing team member consistently. I was with an agency that did really well, right? We opened a MOA. I got experience going from a legacy that was super hectic, busy, and organic opportunity to now I'm in a MOA and it's like it's dead, right? And I had to, I got to learn how to have systems in place that helped me maintain my consistent production in financial services in a legacy that's a bigger book of business and a MOA that's kind of just starting out. And it was all, the systems that I had that allowed for that consistency. But I was able to do that in the agency. And now, over the last 5 years, I've been able to get an inside look into hundreds, if not thousands of agencies, helped thousands of team members. And I've learned a lot. And one of the big things that I've uncovered is there's a lot of common denominators with top producing team members, with top producing agencies. And I'm telling you, this series, if you hadn't had a chance to go through each part of this series, I would recommend doing so. This is a compilation of everything that I've experienced as a team member and being in the agency, in the seat, but also being able to see inside many agencies, right? This is what I've, uncovered as far as common denominators. And I truly believe that agencies that are at the top, that are crushing it, that are doing really well, where their team members are selling and the team members are making good money, but the agency's growing and we're maximizing revenue. All these agencies have a culture around sales. They all do. And so if you haven't had a chance to listen to those previous episodes, those previous parts, I would suggest doing so. But this is part 7 of 7. This is our concluding part of the sales culture series. This episode is all about consistency. Consistency is what compounds. It's the consistency that will help you either, one, do really big things, increase your production to a point where it's, at a whole new level, but also two, it could be the inconsistency or the consistency of not doing the things every day that could compound to your disadvantage, right? So that's kind of my first message, is that sometimes, I guess it's interesting when I'm on the phone with agents and, they're inquiring about team member perspective and what our training is and kind of how often we meet with our group and what those meetings look like and what, they could expect if they were to enroll their team and their agency with us, right? So I'm on these calls all the time. I want you to think about this. Like, when you say that, it's like, what do you mean more consistent? Like, that can mean different things in different ways. But what I want to talk about is how consistency compounds either to your benefit or to your disadvantage, right? And if we think about it this way, like if you think about a garden that we have, there's one of two things that can happen with this garden. Like if the end goal is to have a fruitful garden that sprouts plants and gives you fruit, then in order to get there, you need to plant some seeds. And then you need to tend to the garden, water the garden, weed the garden, and just make sure that the garden is being taken care of, right? Like if you can do that, then you're going to have a fruitful garden. But if you neglect the garden, if you're not planting the seeds, and if you're, even if you did plant the seeds and you're not watering the seeds, then you're not going to have a good garden. It's not going to be fruitful for you. Okay, but in agency, the same principle applies, right? Like if we want our team members to be consistent with their production, if we want our agency to have this mindset that's around growth and sales and growing the business in the agency, then we need to tend to that consistently, right? We need to plant seeds every day if we're team members, right? If you're a team member listening to this and you want more money, or you want to hit your goals, hit your sales goals, your production goals, and that means you need to plant seeds every single day, right? And you need to water those seeds. You need to nurture those seeds. And you need to continue planting those seeds every day, right? Like always be prospecting, always be finding. You need to continue to do that. But when you have this pipeline full of opportunities, you need to nurture them. You need to water. You need to tend to them, right? You need to do that. But then also it's like you need to get better at the planting, at the watering. You need to increase your skill level so that like all these seeds that you're planting, you start to get more of them to sprout, more of them to bring you fruit, right? Because, we talk about this, but yes, sales is a numbers game, but is it just a numbers game? No, right? It's a skills game too, because we could have 10 prospects and 2 different team members, right? They have the same amount of at-bats, okay? Team member A closes 1 out of 10, but team member B closes 6 out of 10. They had the same amount of at-bats. Why did team member B close more? Because they're more skilled, right? They know how to navigate conversations. They understand sales and persuasion. They can just do it better, right? And so, but it all comes back to, we got to first plant the seeds, right? Team members, that is my, one of my big messages that I share is that we should always be finding, because I would much rather have a conversion problem or have a follow-up problem than have a lead problem. Okay, let me repeat that again. I would much rather have a conversion problem or a follow-up problem than to have a lead problem. Like, think about it. if you could just have and create, here's the key word, create, right? I'm not saying that like tell your agent to buy you more leads. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying create your own leads, right? Because if you have an endless supply of leads, we can fix this conversion problem, right? But the challenge, being a top producing team member, becoming a consistent top producing team member, right? Meaning you don't just do it this month, but you do it next month, and you do it the month after that, right? But then you do it consistently every year, right? And here's one mindset that I think consistent top producers share, and it's that they think in terms of weeks, not days, right? Like, because here's the thing is like, I could show up to the office today, and this is all going to tie into consistency. And that's how I want you to think through this is like, I could show up to the office today and I could plant as many seeds as I possibly could. I could spend all 8 hours of my day prospecting, talking to people, pivoting, creating opportunities for myself, setting life appointments for myself, banging out on lists. Like, I could spend my whole day prospecting, and it could be one of those days where I don't see much fruit, right? That could be a Monday. And if I'm only like happy or okay or, kind of measuring myself and thinking in terms of days, I think you can see how that might be discouraging. I think you could see how I could go home that day and I'm in negative town. I'm in the sewer cycle where I am just in my head and I'm convincing myself that, hey, this doesn't work because I tried today all day for 8 hours and it didn't work. Right? And you sit there long enough and you have those thoughts and you give those thoughts energy. Guess what? You start to actually believe those thoughts, right? When in all reality, it's just the nature of sales, right? Like, but you're thinking in terms of days versus thinking in terms of weeks. Like, because if you start to shift that to start thinking in terms of weeks, you have a down day on Monday. Guess what? Who cares? I got 4 more days to figure this out. Tuesday rolls around, and guess what? That might be your day when all of that starts to produce fruit. All of that work that you did on Monday that you didn't think was going to do anything for you just because it didn't happen right then and there could somehow on Tuesday be the day where you cash in, right? Or maybe even have 2 off days on Monday, Tuesday. If you're thinking in terms of weeks, guess what? You're thinking, you know what? I got Wednesday. I got 3 more days to figure this out, right? And even guys, if you think in terms of weeks, not days, let's say you bageled. That's a term that we would use in door-to-door when you didn't sell anything in a day. Let's say you've bageled Monday through Thursday, but you've got Friday. You're thinking in terms of weeks. You know what? Who's to say that Friday can't make up for your lack of fruit the first 4 days of the week? Like, we've all had those days where we're writing 15 policies, right? And so think in terms of weeks, and that will help you maintain this mindset that can just be told no and rejected and not see fruit. Helps maintain that energy and that focus and that intention and allows you to become more consistent with your activity, right? I see often that team members try something for a day or a week and they don't get the results they want and they quit because they've convinced themselves that it's not worth it for them, right? But top producers keep going. They keep showing up. They know that, hey, this is just the nature of this game, right? Like, we're going to have down days, we're going to have off days, and we're going to have really big days too, right? And so consistency to me doesn't mean, 3 apps on Monday, 3 apps on Tuesday, 3 apps on Wednesday, and so forth. It could mean 1 app on Monday, 0 on Tuesday, 5 on Wednesday, right? 4 on Thursday. That's consistency. So start to think in terms of weeks, not days, and you'll notice that you're more easily able to just stay in it and keep showing up, and that consistency of you keeping on showing up, it's going to help you just have consistent production. But now here's the other thing. If we're thinking about this in terms of our agency, how do we really get to this sales culture that Coulter's talking about? How do we actually get there? Well, it's the same principle. The consistency of what you're doing will compound, and the consistency of what you're not doing will also compound. And so, if you want this culture around sales, in your agency, then my question is what are you doing consistently that will enforce that and reinforce that? What does that look like for you? If you want more consistent production out of your team, what does that look like? Like, how are you going to make that happen? And guys, it all, boils down to systems. Systems are what allow us to be consistent. Like, I believe that. If I think about anything in my life, there was a system that I had that I would follow consistently that gave me the outputs, that produced the results. It wasn't like I had this big mind. I'm thinking, I want to sell 300 life apps a year to help me get there. It was like, no, I've got I know I want to do that, but what's the system to get there? Right? When you focus and pay more attention to the systems, the outputs will naturally happen. You'll hit your goals. You'll get what you want to get. It's kind of cool, right? And so if we think about this garden, right, there's a system that allows the garden to be fruitful. And it's the planting the seeds, it's the watering the garden, it's keeping the weeds out, right? And it's just tending to the garden. That's the system. And with the system, it's like, well, how often am I doing that? These are questions that we should answer, right? How often am I planting seeds, weeding, watering, right? And how much? Like, how long am I doing that? How much water am I giving it, right? Like, those are the details to the system. And then the other part of the system is like, how do I make sure that I'm consistently doing this every day? Like, it might be a matter of like, you know what? Like, I just keep forgetting to water the garden. And so I'm going to put the pail of water on my countertop. So it reminds me to do that. Like, that's part of your system. Part of the system is what you're going to do to actually follow through with doing the system consistently. Okay. And if we bring that back to agency, well, it's like, okay, if we want to sell more, if we want it to be a sales culture and we want to hit our goals, then we should probably have systems in place to do that, right? Like, and we shared a lot of these different systems in this sales culture series, but it's what's your system to keep numbers top of mind for your team, right? Of like your agency goals and what your actual production is in regards to those goals. Like, what's your system to keep that top of mind for your team? Because again, if they don't know the score, how do you expect them to win? How do you expect them to have this energy, this proactiveness at, going and attacking and creating opportunities for themselves if they don't know the score? And so what is your system that keeps the score top of mind for your whole agency, right? Like, what is your system that's going to help them, upgrade their skill set and learn processes that just make everything easier? Like, what is your system to help them learn that and keep it top of mind? What's your system for training and for coaching and teaching them these processes and keeping these things top of mind? Because I'll be honest, like, in a lot of ways, that's what training for me does, is it keeps things top of mind. Because, there was times as a team member where, for example, we were taught stairs and buckets, right? Which is a phenomenal tool. And I remember it was top of mind. And so I started trying it in my reviews. And lo and behold, I followed the process, and guess what happened? I started to write bigger premium. I was doing like $200 a month cases, and I had some bigger cases that resulted from this. That was cool. But things got busy in the agency. Maybe we, were understaffed a little bit, and, maybe it was when we had our legacy in MOA and I didn't have, I had all of this stuff in my mind that I needed to get done to keep up in the agency, keep my app production up, keep my, in life, in health, make sure that I was quoting and finding new business, taking care of service, because I had to fill that role. Like, for me, what happened is this stairs and buckets tool I stopped using. And I think about that often, and it was like, well, it wasn't because I had these beliefs that it wouldn't work. It was that I just wasn't doing it. And if I think back to like the root of why I wasn't doing it, is because I was overwhelmed. It wasn't something that was kept top of mind enough for me to remember to do it, right? And so, part of that consistency is like, how do we keep these processes that are working, that are proven, how do we keep them top of mind? Like, if I'm the agency owner, I'm like, okay, am I going to do that? Am I going to train them every single week to keep these things top of mind? Or am I going to have somebody else do it? Like, I don't think it necessarily matters like who you're having do it. Just have, someone do it that will do it. And preferably like people that your team members want to work with and could benefit from, that they could relate to, right? But like the training, the consistent training and reminding and teaching and revisiting and reinforcing different processes will help with that consistency. Like that needs to be there. And because that's the biggest thing. Like if stairs and buckets, honestly, if it was kept more top of mind for me, I probably would have kept using it and probably would have sold even more life premium. But it gets hectic as a team member. And, team members, we're on the front lines and we deal with everything. And so if it's not there consistently in some form of a system, don't be surprised when your team just doesn't do it, because it's like they've got all this other stuff that they're trying to juggle. The last thing they're thinking about is this. And so like, how can we keep this top of mind for them so that this becomes just part of what they do? Because that's the big thing with all of this is you think about like growing up. I assume that mom and dad were on you about brushing your teeth, right? Like I'm on my 5-year-old and like his brain's not thinking about brushing his teeth before he goes to bed. He's thinking about the next snack that he can get from dad. He's thinking about any excuse that he can have to not go to bed. He's not thinking about brushing his teeth. And so what do mom and dad need to do? Well, they need to tell him to brush his teeth. We need to be that external accountability so that this brushing teeth can become like this internal habit for him, right? Like it's not just going to magically happen. The same is true with anything in agency. We need to have some sort of external accountability part of our system if we want to find consistency in that. And I think we all understand that. What's your system to onboard new team members in a way that helps them view and think of the role as an opportunity, not a job? What is the system that's going to get them up and learning the products quickly, learning the systems quickly, and learning how to sell so that they can start making more money right away, quicker, faster? Because I think you can see how that would help with retaining them longer. Like if you can get a team member up and selling in their first 2 months and start making a good commission check, I mean, think about how they're going to view and what beliefs they're going to develop right out of the gate about this team member job. Like they're not going to view it as a job. They're going to view it as an opportunity, and their mind's going to grow, and they're going to have this like energy and this belief and this mindset that, holy crap, like I can really write my paycheck. And that right there, like that is what makes this thing so attractive. Okay. But like, if you don't have a system in place to onboard these new team members in a way that gets them selling quickly, making money quickly or quicker, then don't be surprised when they leave you, because they're not making the money that they want. They probably were overpromised, and now, those promises aren't happening. And so they start looking at different opportunities, and then you don't get, the really anything out of them. You don't get production out of them because they're not fully in it, right? But what if you did have a system that would get them up and selling quickly? All right. And I'm going to do a shameless plug here. Like if you're like, you know what, I don't really have a system to onboard new team members, reach out. We do. We have a top producing team member. It's been in this business for 8 years that consistently does 80 to 100 apps a month, 100 to 150, life apps a year, that's now helping onboard these brand new team members to sell, right? Helping these team members start to view their role as an opportunity, not a job, but then giving them structures to know what to do to win the day, but then know how to execute in their conversations in a way that's compelling so they can write policies. Like we have that system, and we have enrollments every 6 weeks. Okay, so if you have a brand new team member that you're hiring or you will be bringing on, or maybe you hired them within the last 3 months and you're like, you know what, I'm thinking about Susie here. Or you know what, I'm thinking about Tyler. Tyler would be a really good fit for this. Reach out to us. We can get a seat. We keep those limited, so don't wait too long, just because we want to have like this to be more of like a helpful experience for them. We want it to be more hands-on because they're newer, right? But what's your system to get these brand new team members onboarded? Okay. And what's your system to keep and maintain positive energy, to help the team collectively think bigger, focus on possibility of doing big things, of hitting chairman's circle, of traveling the next level, of beating the agency down the street, or becoming the top producing agency on front run? Like, what's your system to do that? What's your system? Okay. Now, to end, guys, like I believe that it's the systems that allow for the consistency. And I hope that my message was really clear, but like I'm telling you, everything that I do right now, it's all because of systems. And the systems allow for that consistency to happen. So if, listening to this series, you're like, you know what? Of anything, like I need to be better. We need to be better. We need to start thinking more like salespeople, like business owners. The purpose of the business is to bring revenue into the business. The purpose of the business is to get a customer, right? How do we do that better? If you're thinking like that's, we need to do that better, and you don't really know where to start, click the description below, click on the link, connect with us, book a call, and just see how we could help. We've got different ways that we can help your team. If you're like, you know what, I'm not really good at training, I don't like training, and I'm not doing it consistently, outsource it to someone that can, someone that preferably has gotten and proven results. What we do, guys, is like we call TMP Weekly. Every Wednesday and Friday, we meet virtually as a group. And on Fridays, we train and teach. Wednesdays, we practice, we role play. And that consistency is helping agencies hit their goals and helping team members level up. And so if you're like, you know what, I want that consistency for my team, click the description below and connect with us. We also have different boot camps. Again, onboard to sell. If you're bringing in a new team member, click the description below. Inquire about that. Ask your questions. We also have a different boot camp that's for our tenured team members, ones that are not necessarily new, but they're underperforming. They're living below their potential. Like we have what we call our Sales Accelerator boot camp. So guys, there's plenty of ways to get involved with us, but our goal is simple. We want to help your team members sell more, and sell more specifically life and health products so that your agency can maximize revenue. We can do big things. And so thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed this series. We'll catch you in the next one.